Hello and most welcome to 1340 in the Heidegger series, and I will continue the author I took up a little bit in 1339. Chris King has written an article of the fractal universe, why it is fractal. I think it is of an immense importance that our conception of reality follows the guiding principles of conscious control. And I would say conscious control is an impossibility in the Newtonian paradigm. Intention, will, is left outside of the picture, both attention and will. The Newtonian paradigm is determinism, and we are will-less, consciousless, soulless creatures ruled by cause and effect in a reductive manner. If that view is present, there is no chance of conscious control. You will go in a way that effectively does not stop until you reach the point of Daniel Dennett, denying your own consciousness. Why the universe is fractal? Chris King, Mathematics Department, University of Auckland. Abstract. Life exists in the universe because the laws of nature arising from cosmic symmetry breaking are intrinsically fractal and embrace chaotic dynamics in a manner that permits new structure to emerge on increasing scales. As we move from the level of fundamental particles to organisms, in a fundamental sense, this is a cosmological property of the universe. Because complex living systems represent the most complete interactive consummation of the four fundamental forces of nature. If the laws of nature permitted only ordered periodic or stochastic solutions to molecular aggregation, as in crystals or amorphous glasses, the complex structures of tissue and life would remain impossible. Symmetry breaking and cosmic inflation. The source of this complexity also lies in cosmological processes, right at the source of the Big Bang. The basis of the cosmic inflation concept is symmetry breaking. In which the fundamental forces of nature, which make up the matter and radiation we relate to in the everyday world, gain the very different properties they have today. There are four quite different forces. The first two are well known. Electromagnetism and gravity. Both long-range forces we can witness as we look out at distant galaxies. The others are two short-range nuclear forces. The color force holds together the three quarks in any neutron or proton, and indirectly binds the nucleus together by the strong force, generating the energy of stars and atom bombs. The weak radioactive force is responsible for balancing the protons and neutrons in the nucleus by interconverting the flavors of quarks and leptons. Particles come in two types: fermions of half integral spin, which can only clump in complementary pairs in a single wave function, and thus being incompressible, make up matter. And bosons of integral spin, which can become coherent and can all enter the same wave function in unlimited numbers. As in a laser, and hence form radiation. As well as virtual particles appearing and disappearing through quantum uncertainty. Bosons mediate the forces which act between the particles. We thus have another fundamental complementarity, manifesting as the relationship between matter and radiation. The half-integral spin of electrons was first discovered in the splitting of the spectral lines of electrons in atomic orbitals into pairs whose spin angular momentum corresponded to 1/2 rather than the 0, 1 or 2. Spin states have to differ by a multiple of Planck's constant h, a particle of spin s has 2s plus 1 components. A glance at the well-known wave particles indicates that the bosons and fermions we know are very different from one another in their properties. And patterns of arrangement. There is no obvious way to pair off the known bosons and fermions. However, there are reasons why there may be a hidden underlying symmetry. Which pairs each boson with a fermion of 1/2 less spin, called supersymmetry. Because in supersymmetric theories, the infinities that plague quantum field theories cancel and vanish. The negative contributions of the fermions exactly balancing the positive contributions of the bosons. This would mean that there must be undiscovered particles. For example, corresponding to spin 2 graviton would be a spin 3/2 gravitino, a spin 1 graviphoton, a spin 1/2 gravifermion, and a spin 0 graviscalar. Symmetry breaking can leave behind defects if the true vacuum emerges in a series of local bubbles which join. Depending on whether the symmetries which are broken are discrete, circular, or spherical. Corresponding anomalies in the form of domain walls, cosmic strings, or magnetic monopoles may form. In addition, other weakly interacting particles may emerge, such as the axions, which some researchers associate with cold, dark matter. In some models, inflation is a fractal branched structure, like a snowflake, which is perpetually leaving behind mature universes like ours. Recently, it has become clearer that even with additional dark matter, possibly compromising neutrinos and other exotic particles, there may not be enough mass to stop the expansion, which may even be accelerating. Various hyperbolic forms of inflation and an additional repulsion called quintessence involving a long-range repulsive dark energy have both been invoked to address this problem. Life's emergence as symmetry broken interaction. Life is the ultimate cosmological consequence of the four forces of nature acting in hierarchical sequence. The color and weak forces binding the quarks to form protons and neutrons. Then atomic nuclei, then atoms, and finally it is the twisted nature of cosmic symmetry breaking which makes the combined action of the nuclear and electromagnetic forces capable of forming around 100 different types of stable nuclei. Through the mutual interaction of strong force attraction, electromagnetic repulsion of the protons, mediated by weak force conversion to neutrons. The fact that stable nucleons are neutral and positively charged polarizes the entire electromagnetic makeup of atoms. The positive charges of the protons clump together in the nucleus, give atoms the unique, highly polarized structure of orbital negatively charged electrons. Without this uniquely polarized situation, which is itself a direct consequence of cosmic symmetry breaking, complex molecular life would be impossible. Moreover, the non-linear interaction, and nota bene, that's important to understand, does not stop at the major bounding types. For molecules admit a whole cascade of non-linear bounding interactions, from covalent and ionic through the hydrophobic and hydrogen bond interactions that shape nucleic acid. And protein structure to the long-range cooperative, weak polar and van der Waal interactions that together make the global cooperativity of enzyme action and cellular organelles, including the excitable membrane possible. It is the unresolved nature of the electromagnetic force in molecular bonding and the transition from strong bonds to global cooperative weak interactions. That make the fractal dynamics and fractal supramolecular associations of complex molecules into organelles, cells, and tissues possible. Symmetry breaking has thus caused molecular matter to adopt a fractal structure, in parenthesis, i.e. not binary, not either or, not depending on existence or non-existence, but in the very boundaries. End of parenthesis. Which ultimately becomes tissues and organisms on the planetary surface held together by the last force. Gravity, energized by the negentropic surfeit of incoming solar radiation, bathing our photosynthesized based biosphere. With its diversity of plant, animal, fungal, protist, and prokaryote forms. We owe to the unique, twisted symmetry breaking of the forces of nature the very capacity for molecular life, and with it biological complexity and the tree of evolution to ramify. In effect, biological complexity, with it the conscious brain, becomes the ultimate cosmological interactive result of cosmic symmetry breaking. The sigma at the cosmic equator representing the fulfillment of both alpha and omega. Chemistry is often portrayed in terms of ball and stick models. As if only the particle properties of atoms are of significance in chemical bonding. Indeed, the atomic nature of matter is one of the principal foundations for a reductionist explanation of all living processes in terms of the simple actions of atoms as the building blocks of the universe. However, wave-particle complementarity is at the very core of all chemical interactions. The periodic table of elements has periodicity only because the wave properties of the electronic orbitals give rise to a series of S, P, D, F orbitals of increasing spins of 0, 1, 2, etc. Thus, the second row of the periodic table after H and helium consists of the second layer of 2s and 3 2p orbitals. Because electrons are fermions, they can only enter a given wave orbital in pairs of opposite spin. These 4 orbitals allow 8 electrons in to complete the shell. Corresponding to the 8th elements in the second row, running through C, N, and O. carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. In fact, the energies of these orbitals equilibrate to form hybrid sp orbitals. By wave superposition, resulting in the planar sp2 and tetrahedral sp3. Arrangements we find in molecules from water to diamonds. From here, the process is highly nonlinear. Electrons are capable of forming molecular wave orbitals, such as sigma and pi. Which orbit around more than one atom, often two, but sometimes, in the case of conjugated single and double bonds, a whole molecular ring. Because of non-linear charge interactions between the electrons with the nucleus which, like gravitation, obey an inverse square law in 3D space. The lowest energy molecular orbital is lower in energy than either atomic orbital. And the electron enters it, binding the atoms together into a molecule such as H2. This is the basis of the covalent bond. The ionic bond arises from a similar lowering of energy by electron transfer from one atom to another, resulting in net attraction between the resulting positively and negatively charged ions, such as N plus and Cl minus. I will make a short summary here. I'll have to recount how I experience chemistry, with balls connected to different strings or poles, and how in my mind it was established that this was the very foundation of reality. And of course, the molecular model is extremely well spread. There is no classroom in the Western Hemisphere or the Eastern Hemisphere that doesn't contain molecular structures in the forms of balls, wires, and poles. The first take, I have to say, this is an obvious experiential, emotional establishment that lies in the very foundation of the experience of a reductionist universe. King clearly shows that fractality is at the very bottom, unavoidably so, something that we approached in different ways. But fractality is what makes up the universe and reality. It continues to be non-linear, despite molecular models in all classrooms and all universities of the world. Can you see all the movies as well, all the media? We're speaking of thousands and thousands of titles that include molecular models. How easy is it not then to fall into the, I would say, thinking trap of reductionism, and to think for yourself, no matter how, it doesn't have to be exact, but somehow there is in the world a fundamental molecular, atomic, or subatomic structure that sort of builds up from the bottom, and all the properties that comes from the bottom is transported, agglomerated, like a pile going upwards, deciding everything in a deterministic, reductionistic cause and effect string. Nobody claimed to know that string. It is impossible. But we believe it to be there. Chris King is aptly and clearly pointing out the erroneous thinking. We can, how much we would want to make the world linear, it can never become linear. The reason for that is that non-linearity is from the bottom to the higher levels. It is what arranges the DNA structure. It is what arranges life itself, and what causes it. What is the impetus for life? Well, as in all processes in the universe, the impetus is symmetry breaking. Without the breaking of symmetry, there can be no change. So the fractality of symmetry breaking lies at the very foundation. And before I close the summary, I need to put, how can I say, a little shame or no, a little pointer or advice, well, advice is the best word, to the ones that are constructed a design universe idea. Those are, at least today, 50 authors, agglomeration of scientists, philosophers and writers. They all of them ignore the fractality of the universe. And they are, in a goal-oriented, end-gaining way, trying to prove from a molecular reductionist basis that life is actually made by God. Can you see the futility on that project? Because they ignore the fractality of the universe. And they actually start at the foundation of Newton. And therefore, it's pretty sure that I will end up with the same conclusions as everyone else of a reductionist, causally determined universe. That ends my summary, and I open up for a question.
Yes, microphone.
Oh yes, of course. There you go.
You don't believe this, but this morning I was actually thinking about writing a paper about the letter sigma in the New Testament, in the Greek New Testament. And therefore, when I heard this phrase here that I will repeat, I really jumped almost. So the phrase here that Chris King writes is, in effect, biological complexity, and with it the conscious brain, becomes the ultimate cosmological interactive result of cosmic symmetry breaking the sigma at the cosmic equator, representing the fulfillment of both alpha and omega. I am not a scientist, so could you explain a little bit the sigma at cosmic equator? What could he mean? Kind of vague, perhaps?
The sigma, it refers to the symmetry breaking, which is very apt since sigma starts with the same sound. Sigma, symmetry breakage. And that lies in the foundation of alpha to omega, everything. And in Chris King's theory, he's not only speaking of life, he speaks of literally everything. The whole of the universe starts.
Can you paint the sigma? I don't know what he means. It's difficult to grasp. What does he mean by sigma in this case?
I can't make easy
No,
graph. No, sorry.
It's not easy. It's too
No,
difficult.
no.
Could I an easy metaphor?
I will work on one, but this stuff, I read it yesterday. This is very complicated stuff. And to make your suffering easier, you ones listening, this has not been acknowledged by the at least plus 50 scientists working with the idea of a designed universe. They don't understand it themselves. So it is far from easy. But it's amazing that you had sigma and sigma turns up here in fractality. Coincidences, comes up from reductionist thinking. There is no possibilities of coincidence. So this is no coincidence, it's quite meaningful. And I will continue with Chris King. I had finished half the article. I say thank you very much and have a very pleasant afternoon.
Thank you.